Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
April 10th, 2018.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
So who is the master of puppets pulling the strings? And in this death struggle between Mueller and Trump, who will prevail? What can Trump do to save his presidency? Is there a legal means to save Trump? It doesn't matter what the court of public opinion is. It doesn't really matter. As you well know, the corrupt media filled with fake newsmen, no matter what Trump does, he's wrong. If he found the cure for Alzheimer's disease in a laboratory on his own, in his spare time, they would say he broke the law in finding the cure for Alzheimer's disease. And let me remind you of something else. We are now descending to the level of Stalin's chief of secret police, Lavrentiy Beria, who said, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." We've heard, not so comedically, that if the FBI wants to, they can indict a ham sandwich. We heard Charles Schumer warn Trump in the beginning. If the secret police, meaning our whatever security apparatus, whatever you call them in this country, want to, they'll get you 6 ways to Sunday, whatever that means. Well, they're trying to get Trump 6 ways to Sunday. My analysis is this has nothing to do with Russia. And what Mueller, as a puppet, is doing, and he's just a puppet, never forget that. Never forget that Mueller is acting not on his own. Mueller is acting at the behest of some very powerful figures way beyond his pay scale. And Mueller is trying to find something to indict a member of Trump's family so that they can bring Trump before them and say, here's the deal. Either you resign with honor or we're going to indict your family member. That's what I see. It reminds me of many, many cases in human history before powerful men. I can think of one right now. It keeps coming to my mind. And that was the great general of Hitler who fought in the Desert Campaign honorably, great general, and Rommel, he fell out of favor with Hitler. Hitler invited him to Europe, back to Berlin, and he gave him a choice. That he would let Rommel resign, in other words, commit suicide, in which case his wife and his son, Rommel's son, would be left alone. And they told Rommel if he didn't take the cyanide, his wife and son would be destroyed by the Hitler regime and his property seized. Rommel took the poison. Or you want to go back to the hemlock, read your Aristotle, go do that. So history is repeating itself right here, and they're going to give Trump the option of honor or the opposite. But I think Trump is going to evade that situation. We're hearing it today as he's giving a talk as we speak. Trump said he certainly believes he has the power to fire Mueller, which he does. He can fire the whole pack of them. He can get rid of Mueller. He can get rid of Rosenstein with the stroke of a pen. They're gone. What's going to happen? MSNBC and CNN are going to go crazy. They're crazy already. How much crazy can they get? How much more sick and insane can the American left get than they already are? What, are they going to riot in the streets? They've already done that. So you want chaos, you have chaos. Will the chaos spread to the streets? Probably. I believe that I would say there's a high likelihood that the following will happen within the next short period of time. I have no knowledge of this. It's just the man in the second-story window looking down on the people, the passerbys below him. Here's what I see that could happen. Move the pieces around in your head. Trump's just moved a naval destroyer into the sea off the coast of Syria. They're getting ready for a Tomahawk missile strike against Assad as we speak, based on the false flag of the gas attack. It's a repeat of history all over again. It's Clinton with Wag the Dog. It's Clinton with bombing the milk factory. There's a high likelihood, and I don't know how high, I wouldn't bet, I'm not a betting man, that Trump will order a Tomahawk strike, and in the very moment those missiles land in Syria, he will fire Mueller and Rosenstein at the same time. All hell will break loose. That's a high probability, and you heard it first on this program. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. I'm not in the inner circle. I'm out here just watching the world go by. But joining us is a man who's been in the courts, fights in the courts, fights day and night, knows how the courts work. Dan Horowitz. Dan, a pleasure to have you back in the Savage Nation. Thanks for losing so much money by being on air with me.
Thank you, Michael.
And not earning the money that you should be earning for your wife and children. So, Dan, you heard my scenario just now. You know how my mind thinks. You know me very well. I'm a friend of yours, right?
Yes, yes.
How often am I right and how often am I wrong on international events? I have a high likelihood of being right in this case. Yes. What do you think Trump? What is Trump going to do to save himself from this inquisition?
Right. I mean, you scared me yesterday when you talked about Bolton pushing us to war and Trump embracing him and his team. So, yeah, it looks like we're going to war again for no reason, doesn't it? You know,
Bolton was brought in the day before there's a gas attack. We don't know who caused it. Today we find out that a major official in DHS who did not want war with Syria was forced to resign by the Walrus. They're getting ready for war, Dan.
They are. And talk about making me lose money, Michael. I lost money yesterday listening to your show instead of working.
I wonder how many people lose money. I had a defense attorney call in from New York yesterday. Real Bronx lawyer. He was great. I got a number of emails from him. The guy knew what he was doing. He sounds like he represents some high-profile people out there. He thinks that Cohen made some mistakes by becoming too public and making himself too visible. What do you think?
He's wrong. I'll tell you why. The public is the only protection we have. These special prosecutors do whatever they want. It's all behind closed doors. The only people who are going to stand up for Cohen or you or me if they go after us are the people who are listening to what's going on and reading. So you got to bring the public in. That's it's the whole idea with guns to protect the republic, voices to protect the republic, keep people in the dark, and these powers can do what they want.
Let's get some callers for Dan Horowitz, who is on the show, to take some only a few calls. Many people just want to say something without asking. But let's get those with questions. Robert on KSFO line 5. What's your question for Mr. Horowitz?
Can the U.S. Marshals file a warrant on the FBI and the DOJ and request all the information on the FISA warrants and on both Strzok and Page and perhaps Rosenstein? Or which organization would be able to file warrants and serve them on the FBI?
Robert, you and Judy have those same concerns. How do we check the people who are coming after us to see whether they're making things up or misrepresenting information? The answer is no one can do it, whether it's a Freedom of Information Act request or subpoenas in a civil case. It is a door that we, the people, cannot open. Wrong, but what I told you is the truth. It's how it is.
What do you mean? They have unlimited power?
It's the judiciary can look at things. The secret judiciary that looks at these FISA warrants. They're their own little world. But
Dan, this goes back to something I've talked about on the show, going back to the Roman times when the poet Juvenal, in his satires, said, "Quies custodiae ipsos custodes." Who will watch the watchers? Who will guard the guards themselves? It's the same thing now, the same thing as in ancient Rome, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. We've ceded so much power, and the federal government has so much power to attack witnesses, people who advocate for politically unpopular positions, that they really can destroy whomever they wish. And let me give you an example. What was it? Attorney General Bell, who was a Republican, investigated Jimmy Carter for the peanut business loans. I mean, politically, these special prosecutor types have been used as political weapons since the 1800s.
So this is nothing really new under the sun. It's one party trying to get the other on a pretext that may be built upon a house of cards.
Right, and I'll add this too. The only time a president, to my knowledge, has gotten in trouble for firing a special prosecutor was Nixon. But there's been firings by presidents of special prosecutors throughout the years, and it's not been fatal to them whatsoever.
Wow. Hold it. That's a really big deal. So Dan, let's go down this road together. Trump fires the missiles and fires Mueller at the same time as a distraction. Could happen. What happens the next day? Does the entire hearing go away, or they appoint another one?
Well, I'm not going to watch CNN, of course, but because it'll be crazy. But the question is, what will the Republicans do, and what will Sessions do? He's got to fire Sessions and Rosenstein, and then there's a gap. And of course, the Senate has.
This almost sounds like the Valentine's Day massacre coming. He gets rid of Sessions, Rosenstein, and Mueller all at the same time. They're all executed against the stone wall.
Yeah, who's next? I don't know who's next in succession until there's approval in the Senate. But I really think the Republican Party is going to be tested at that point, and I think they turn on Trump, and because they want someone else to take over.
So does the smart money that I've talked to. They say that the Republicans are in cahoots with Mueller, and they really want Trump gone, and they want Vice President Pence to take over. That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. By the way, prediction, Michael?
Yes.
I predict that the next person whose home and office is going to be searched is American media, the National Enquirer guy, David Pecker, because he's been paying these women for their, quote, stories about affairs with Trump and then silencing them, not running the stories and keeping it quiet. And I think they're going to claim that he's covering up for Trump and making contributions to the campaign using the media as a way of doing it. So I think they're going...
this is turning into a jest now. David Pecker, National Enquirer, covering up for women. God, how could a name David Pecker be more aptly applied than in this case?
It on the air, Michael, but I had to.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't even know there was such a man. But how does art imitate life? In this case, life imitating art. This becomes a parody within a parody. Dan, when I return, I want to just finish one piece before you go at the bottom of the hour to earn a living for your lovely wife and children, who I love very much. I want to talk about what happens if there is a Saturday night massacre, a Valentine's Day massacre. He fires Sessions. He fires Rosenstein. He fires Mueller. We know what CNN will do. We know what all of the usual characters will do. Do you actually believe at this time that most of the people would back Trump? Or have they soured on this drama? I'll be right back on the Savage Nation.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. April 10th, 2018.
Dies custodiae, ipsos custodes. Pardon my bad Latin. Who will watch the watchers? This goes back to what is happening now to around 100 A.D. Who will guard the guards? Who shall watch the watchers themselves? We assume that Mueller is above the law, but don't make that assumption. He is a partisan attack dog of the Democrat Party, even though he was appointed by a Republican. He's answering to higher powers than Republicans right now. Or even if he is answering to the Republican establishment, it's the same thing as the Democrats at the end of the day. It is called the establishment. They hate Trump. They don't like him upsetting the apple cart of their lives, and they want him gone. So they're trying to squeeze anyone in Trump's inner circle, notably his family members, to get them to the point where they can indict him. I think they will then go to Trump with a deal, resign with honor, or we will put one of your family members in prison. But they're not going to get there. Trump's too smart for that. He can play the same game I can play. I'm sure he figured it out. And he's got to fire Mueller, Rosenstein, and Sessions all at once. To conclude our interview today, Dan Horowitz rejoins us from Lafayette, California. Dan, any last ideas on what Trump can do to save his presidency other than fire those three?
Well, it's interesting, Michael. I was researching this a little bit, and somebody sent me an email. After those two are out, Rosenstein and Sessions, next Rachel Brand comes in. But here's the interesting thing. If she goes out, the fourth person is the United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, But just before, and Trump signed an executive order making that happen. Obama, just before Trump took office, had changed that rule and made number 4 the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Okay?
So Obama played chess before he left, huh?
Yes, so they've been seeing this from day one. They've been seeing this game play out because Trump reversed that in February of 2017. This chess game has been going on behind our backs for a long time.
Oh, my God. So actually, who would take power then?
Well, I mean, Brand is somebody that Trump nominated, and she was narrowly approved. She seems to be pretty balanced. The lawyer from the District of Columbia, which was Obama's choice for the next in line, is a big-time civil Harvard Yale person, whereas the one Trump put in the 4th place is more of a hardcore prosecutor. Interestingly, all 3 are women. So when you get to the 3rd and 4th levels, a woman would take over the office.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen, but my suspicion is, knowing theater and drama and how things play out, and knowing history, we're liable to see a Tomahawk missile strike against a Syrian airfield and a Saturday night massacre inside the Justice Department. At least that is a high probability. I might even advise it myself. Have the missiles land in a desert somewhere and kill nothing, except maybe a desert rat here and there. Well, Dan Horowitz, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Unfortunately, I think that Mueller has descended to the level of Beria. Certainly not with the executions yet, but with the incriminations of people. And where this will end, nobody knows. But I agree with your email that the Mueller looking at Trump and Ukrainian Pinchuk is baloney. In that, Mueller's looking at a $150,000 payment from the Ukrainian billionaire, allegedly to Trump through Cohen, while ignoring millions of dollars paid to the Clintons by those in Ukraine. Dan Horowitz, Lafayette, California, thanks for joining us. Now get back to work and make some money.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
It is 28 minutes after the hour. You're listening to the Savage Nation. Quies custodiae ipsos custodes. Boy, am I bad in Latin.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
It's getting near dawn when lights close the tired eye.
All right, welcome back to the Savage Nation. You know, the whole world's starting to look more and more like a gigantic acid trip. Now, I eschewed LSD even when I was the gatekeeper to Timothy Leary's estate. It's a well-known story. And I was the only one who didn't use LSD in Millbrook back in the 60s, even though I was there in the heyday of the psychedelic universe of Timothy Leary. I mean, it's a fact. I didn't, and I wouldn't, because my mind is too finely tuned to use it. And yet I read that LSD is making a comeback as some professionals are dropping acid before work. I said, that can't be possible. Because I know that there are people still walking the streets of Berkeley, California, blowing soap bubbles in the streets. Their minds were destroyed in the 60s by LSD. And yet, we read that this is happening. People are taking it to suddenly it's a miracle drug. Psychedelics are back, even taking it before work. And I have an expert on the subject, Dr. John Huber, with us on the Savage Nation. Dr. Huber, thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you for having me on the Savage Network.
So let me ask you something. How can you unfocus a mind in order to focus a mind?
Well, are you talking about like if we're using LSD or some sort of psychedelic for therapy? What they do is the therapy model, the psychedelic allows the individual to actually withdraw all their normal impulses to withhold information from the therapist, and all the boundaries, the social boundaries that we use to protect our ego are gone. And
I can understand. I can understand using a microdose in therapy with a blocked individual. But I read that LSD is making a comeback amongst some who are dropping acid before work. What do you think of that?
Well, it troubles me. I mean, I've been around people who are tripping and who haven't used microdoses, but the theory is that the microdoses allow people to stay calm, and I have a hard time buying that myself as a mental health professional who's observed people who are tripping while, they're experiencing some sort of psychotic episode. I'm flashing back to the Timothy Leary movie where they showed people crawling around on the floor, in their suits and everything else. I can't imagine my banker doing that while I'm trying to do a transaction.
Dr. John Huber is a clinical forensic psychologist, a practitioner with privileges at 2 long-term acute care hospitals. And I am talking about an article I read in the Daily Star out of the UK, LSD making comeback as professionals drop acid before work. I personally cannot understand how minds can function more sharply on a psychedelic. And do you use LSD in therapy is the first question?
I do not. I'm actually going this week to observe a doctor who does on Thursday. I'm going to observe it firsthand myself. So,
as I say, I live in San Francisco, and I've seen, to this day, there are people whose minds were destroyed by psychedelics in the 60s who've never come back from those trips. So I think this is quite a dangerous trend, and maybe it's just the newspapers reporting something that is rather minor. So do you think there are mental health benefits to taking acid and other psychedelics, never mind at work, even in therapy?
I think in certain situations, something like ketamine that we know has a finite time. It's only going to last about 24 to 27 minutes on a microdose, and there's no residual after effects. You're not going unconscious. I could see that. I have a hard time seeing LSD used to that position because I have had patients in the hospital who tripped for hours and then didn't recall any of their actions, for several hours.
There are many, many cases of suicides of people who've jumped out of windows thinking they could fly, hearts exploded with fear from visions they had of things that weren't real on LSD. I think this is very dangerous, by the way, and who's pushing using psychedelics for depression, addiction, and PTSD? I don't know who's pushing that.
Well, when you have PTSD patients who have tried just about everything else and nothing has worked for them, and they're still trapped in that battle zone over in Iraq, somebody drives by in a car and all of a sudden, they're paranoid and think somebody's going to, start shooting at them. They're willing to try anything to get that to stop, and I totally understand that, but I think a lot more research needs to go into it. There's lots of studies going on, for example, at Johns Hopkins using MDMA or ecstasy, and that's a whole nother can of worms that's very disturbing at that point as well.
Well, I'm a little old-fashioned. I grew up in the psychedelic age, and I saw what it did to a lot of people. It destroyed some of the best minds of my generation. And even in smoking marijuana at the time, some people who are high-strung or very, very intelligent had very bad experiences, even with mild marijuana. I can just imagine what some of the new strains of marijuana are doing to otherwise finely tuned brains. And I can't imagine a doctor using LSD or any other psychedelic in therapy. I have to go back to what an old woman told me in the streets of San Francisco when I first moved here. In those days, there were still old women walking around in black clothing, believe it or not. And I spoke with an old Italian woman, and she said to me, well, I don't know you, sir, but there's nothing that a little coffee, a little wine, and a little garlic can't cure. So I tend to revert to the basics, to be honest with you.
I wish it were that simple, but, when we're inundated in a society that thinks that anything with mental illness is a crazy thing, and those people need to be locked away, and it scares a lot of people with even minor forms of depression and stuff to come forward and get things taken care of, so they wait.
All right, Dr. John Huber can be reached at mainstreammentalhealth.org, and I believe it is worthwhile to visit Dr. Huber at mainstreammentalhealth.org. Doctor, thank you for being with us on the Savage Nation. I really appreciate it. Now, let's go back to the acid trip of Mueller versus Trump. Sessions, Mueller, Rosenstein, the WrestleMania that is going on in Washington right now, that's become somewhat of a brawl, and we don't know where this brawl is going to end and who's going to prevail, and which team of thugs is going to win, and what is best for the American people at the end of the day as to who wins this brawl. What would be better for the American people? You think it would be better for the American people if Mueller and his team win the brawl? It means that they could then invade your attorney-client privilege. They could literally crucify anyone listening to this show at any time on any pretext. That would be my opinion of what would happen if Mueller prevailed. If, on the other hand, Trump prevails, there will be a terrible feeling on the other side of justice gone awry and justice not served. And there will be dissension in the country worse than we've ever seen. So I don't see how we win in either case. Now let's take the callers and see what you see. 855-400-7282, 855-400-SAVAGE. Joe on WABC line 8. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Dr. Savage, long-time listener. I'm very disturbed about the events. I had a very sad comment, but using perhaps your model, I wanted to relay it in the humor format because I feel that the message itself is just too heavy. So if you could come along with me, I would say, do
it already. My mind just shut down. What is it you're doing? I don't get it.
I would like to relay a very sad message about the state of our country, but I have to use humor as a format.
All right, start already. So far, you're telling me you're going to use humor. Use it, please.
What's the lowest form of humanity?
Oh, I don't know. What's the lowest form of humanity?
A prostitute, some would say. What's lower than a prostitute?
A Stormy Daniels. What's lower than a prostitute?
A blackmailer.
Okay, next.
A blackmailer. A black prostitute. And now for the kicker. What's lower than a blackmailing prostitute?
Her lawyer.
I'd say this. Her lawyer.
No, what's lower than a blackmailing prostitute? Her lawyer.
I would say my answer is a media and justice system that not only...
All right, thanks for this. Oh, God, I did get a mild palpitation from it. It was not funny, number one. It took too long, number two, and it didn't make sense to me. But all right, it's open to the public, 855-407-282. We are talking about WrestleMania now between Mueller and Trump. We've talked about the fact that the country seems to be on a gigantic acid trip and that nobody's going to win no matter what happens here. And the world is descending on a daily basis to a lower and lower level. I was reading in a European newspaper that Russian hula girls are training in the snow in mass brawls as they prepare to attack English fans at World Cup 2018. And there's teams of female ultras launching into a bloody fistfight in the snow. These Russian girls are tough. And they intend to go to the World Cup and beat up girls from England. It sounds to me like Mueller versus Trump. At least it does on the outside, by the way. Jimmy in Alaska, line 5, you're up on the Savage Nation.
Dr. Savage, I woke up this morning in a terrible mood. My stomach is killing me, and I had to hear your voice of reason. I have to hear it tape delayed by the time I get to it. I want to thank you for that, but last night I watched a movie called Kill the Irishman.
Yeah, I loved it. I watched it years ago. One of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're trying to take a good man down. Yeah, he wasn't perfect, but he was a strong man, and Americans love a strong man, even if he's not a saint. And you know what? I honestly, as soon as I heard your voice, I know you went to high school with one of my mother's sisters, because there was 10 of them, and they all went to Jamaica High.
So what are you doing hiding in Alaska?
I am you know what? We have a cruise ship industry up here. It's getting ready to...
Okay, I don't want to know anymore. It's a family show. But what do you mean what joking? Wait, let's get personal. What do you mean mother's sisters went in my same class?
I'm sure of it. There was 11 of them. My mother passed away when she was 68, about 10 years ago.
Oh, sorry to hear it. So you think that one of them was in high school when I was there?
It has to have been.
Well, maybe they all have the same common sense that I do. I mean, when you go to Jamaica High School in the years I went to it, when there was a rifle team down below in the basement of the school and nobody killed themselves and nobody shot anybody in the halls, and most of the male teachers were war veterans, believe me, it was a different nation.
Well, one thing they all did share was your style of speech, and it comforted me. I couldn't figure out what it is about you. I mean, I don't always agree with you. I enjoy listening to your show, though, and it's impossible to get you up here, unfortunately. But you know.
Wait a minute. You just said you'd get me later on. What do you mean impossible to get me in a lot? You said you'd get.
See, I do.
You probably get it afterwards, or how do you receive it afterwards?
I just go online and catch it on.
Well, let me say again, a large proportion of my audience streams the show live. It is streamed live. And all you got to do is go on your device, if you can't find it on a station, and hit Michael Savage Radio, and it'll come up while I'm doing it. And the fact of the matter is, it's an enormously large audience because the show is the #1 streaming talk radio show in America. Actually, it's vying at this time with Rush, up and down, very close to #1. It was #1 for 2 years, then it dropped a little drop. So you can get it online, and I appreciate the kind sentiments. When we come back, I want to finish up this hour by talking about Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. We all know it's a Soviet-staged trial, that most of the inquisitors were paid off by him through donations. In fact, he met with some of them behind closed doors yesterday. The whole thing is a sham and a charade. He's doing great, by the way. Incidentally, listening to Mark Zuckerberg, if you close your eyes and you're a television watcher, the voice is eerily reminiscent of the asexual character in the Showtime hit series Billionaire. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
You know, the idea of falling into bed at night, for me, has taken on a whole new meaning ever since I started sleeping on my Casper mattress. I look forward to it. The engineers at Casper have outdone themselves in creating the most exceptionally comfortable sleep experience ever. You get one, you'll totally understand why I'm talking about it. Casper has created 3 unique mattresses that will help you sleep cool and comfortable year-round. There's the Wave mattress, remarkable technology built into it, engineered to relieve pressure at 36 different points. The Casper mattress is more breathable and comfortable than ever and loved by nearly 1 million happy customers. And the Essential mattress, that's the third one, is innovation at a great price point. All of them, all Casper mattresses designed with zone support to coddle and comfort your every move. They all provide the perfect support for every position you sleep in. I want you to see for yourself why Casper has hundreds of thousands of happy customers like myself. Try your Casper mattress for 100 nights in your own home. Free shipping and returns. Just go to Casper.com, code SAVAGE. And they're going to give you $50 off the purchase of select mattresses. You heard me. That's Casper.com, code SAVAGE to save $50. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. Now, what's ironic about all of this is it's all about sex again. It's gone from Russia collusion, high crimes and misdemeanors. Russia colluded with Trump to steal the election from the Honorable Hillary Clinton. So the Inquisitor found nothing, and now they've devolved into records about 2 women who allegedly had affairs with the president. And so now it's a sex scandal. So what's Maxine Waters going to start screaming now? Impeach, impeach, impeach. Impeach, impeach, impeach. You don't hear the words Russia anymore, do you? No more Russia coming out of the Democrat quarters. Nothing, zero. No more Russia, Russia, Russia. No more impeach on Russia. Now they impeach him on an affair? Tell me how many of those senators are clean. That's what I want to know. Moreover, I want you to listen to something. There's a great soundbite from a very liberal Senator Blumenthal who says things that sounds rather sympathetic to what just happened, sympathetic to Trump, not to Mueller. Listen to 04.
It's a little bit like a nuclear strike with multiple warheads. First, remember that it had to go through multiple levels of review, all by Trump appointees. And so a raid on a lawyer's office is an extraordinary event. For a prosecutor, as I was, to even contemplate it is just a remarkable act of audacity, particularly when the lawyer is the sitting president's lawyer. And he has the vault. He has the keys to the kingdom. He knows all the secrets about Donald Trump. And if he were to cooperate, it would be indeed a transformative event. So the raid is seismic.
Now analyze what this very intelligent liberal Senator Blumenthal just said. If it happened, if he were to cooperate, that would be Cohen. It would be a transformative event. He almost sounded as though every senator sitting in the United States Senate would be at risk to have their own hides called before a special prosecutor, and God knows what the senator's lawyers know about them.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
When life grows a tired eye, I'll soon be with you, my love. Give you my
It is the Savage Nation. Well, my love is the truth. And frankly, I go to sleep thinking about it and wake up thinking about it. And here we are trying to get to the bottom of it. And we see that Mueller, a partisan investigator, is investigating Trump over $150,000 allegedly donated from a Ukrainian who gave the Clintons $13 million. Now, figure out why this is happening. It's a partisan wrestling match. The Republicans got Clinton a number of years ago, and the Democrats have been waiting to get a Republican ever since. First, they started with the false premise based upon a false document on Russia collusion. Remember Maxine Waters, the insane? Day and night. Impeach, 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 Russia, Russia, Russia. Even the leaders of the Democrat Party told her to shut a trap because they knew it was going to go nowhere. So all of a sudden, in the middle of Russia, which turned up nothing, they're like, it's like panning for gold, and no gold came up in the stream. So now they're panning for copper. So what do? They break down the doors of Trump's lawyer. They break down his hotel room door. And they steal all of his documents, hoping to find something that they can nail one of Trump's inner circle on and then pressure Trump to resign. It ain't going to happen. It is probably more likely, and I'm only guessing from the outside, as I said earlier, that Trump will fire Sessions, Rosenstein, and Mueller all at once, and at the same time launch missiles from a destroyer off the coast of Syria to try and hit some Syrian planes that may or may not have been involved in the gas attack that we are hearing about. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. I told you about Stalin's secret police chief Beria, one of the most evil men in history, a vicious murderer who oversaw the murder of millions through the ruthless purges of the 1930s and 40s. He had people shot for nothing. He tortured people. He raped young women. He violated young girls. And he died in 1953 as one of the most hated men in the country. What does it have to do with Mueller? Nothing. But something that Beria said sticks in my mind that may have something to do with Mueller and all the Democrats and the media itself, mainly Wolf Blitzer, which is show me the man and I'll show you the crime. I have a great defense attorney myself. I don't need him, but I use him as general counsel. Dan Horowitz, he's a white-collar attorney and a general attorney, and he was on the show in the last hour, and he had sent me an email yesterday saying the Mueller looking at Trump and Ukrainian Pinchuk is baloney, and he explained why. He said because the father-in-law of Pinchuk is very close to the Clintons and had donated tens of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, and yet there was never an investigation. Now, I'm not saying two wrongs make a right or that Trump is 100% innocent or he's as clean as the driven snow. Believe me, I am not saying that. I'm saying that we're all in danger of losing one of our liberties. Another one, look at Zuckerberg up there. Here's a man who took away all of our privacy. Being inquired of by whom? Who are the people asking Zuckerberg questions? Why is Zuckerberg smiling? Why is his lawyer smiling? Why is the woman on his left shoulder smiling? Because every one of those fake senators up there is on the take. They all received campaign donations. And he met with some of them yesterday behind closed doors, including Dianne Feinstein. You think she's going to ask him any real questions about his goings-abouts? Now, do the American people love Zuckerberg, hate Zuckerberg, Fear Zuckerberg. What do I know about that? I do know that he has a weird voice that sounds like the asexual character in the Showtime hit series Billions. If you close your eyes, it's her, the one with the bald head. But that's neither here nor there. He's a very brilliant man, obviously. No one builds a corporation like that on their own without being brilliant. I mean, you could have a good idea and go nowhere with it, or you could have a good idea and go somewhere with it, or you have a good idea and go to the moon with it. He's gone to the moon with it. He's real smart. He's handling himself very well, even though there's stooge questions. Tremendous sense of self-control, power, dignity, strength. He's not showing any weakness whatsoever. Moreover, he's not going to the other side and showing weakness by showing arrogance. This is an interesting thing to watch this man in action. And you could see why he got where he is. This is a smart guy. I'd be proud to have Zuckerberg as my son, I'll tell you that. I know many, you should hate, why should I hate Zuckerberg? What did he do to me? I don't know, maybe they banned me here and there. I don't really care whether they ban me or not. My Facebook postings, it's not going to change my life one way or the other. It's a private outlet. I don't care what he does to me. So here we are, hour 3, Zuckerberg, Mueller, Trump, Rosenstein, Sessions, all these names. And I want to play for you a soundbite before we get into the additional details of the hour, which is Alan Dershowitz. I think Dershowitz has seen his better times. I think he agrees. I agree with him because he said this yesterday at night after I said it. I don't know if he's listening to the show. I hope he listens to the show. It'd be my honor if he did. But he said it's a dangerous day for the client-lawyer privilege, which I said on the show. A lot of people copied me. They were quoted on various sites because I'm the invisible man in the media. What I say, people listen to and then make believe they invented it. I'm not saying Dershowitz did, but there are others that were copycats. They've copied everything from me from the day they started, from the opening of their show to the end of their show. And so, again, here's Alan Dershowitz saying it's a dangerous day for all of us in the attorney-client privilege. In clip 1, let's listen.
This is a very dangerous day today for lawyer-client relations. I deal with clients all the time. I tell them on my word of honor that what you tell me is sacrosanct. And now they say, just based on probable cause, even though this was cooperation with Cohen, they can burst into the office, grab all the computers, and then give it to another FBI agent and say, you're the firewall. We want you now to read all these confidential communications, tell us which ones we can get and which ones we can't get.
And then he goes on in clip 2, which is actually more important. Let's hear that one as well, Clint.
If this were the shoe on the other foot, if this were Hillary Clinton being investigated and they went into her lawyer's office, the ACLU would be on every television station in America jumping up and down. The deafening silence of the ACLU and civil libertarians about the intrusion into the lawyer-client confidentiality is really appalling.
Well, coming from him, they may listen. I doubt it because they're in another world of their own. They're completely corrupt. Also in the news that you may have missed is that a major league player in the Department of Homeland Security was fired a day after the Walrus was hired. The war hawk is getting us ready for a war in Syria right now. And he fired someone in the Department of Homeland Security through, I think, the DHS actually, who reports into the Homeland Security Department, reports into the National Security Agency. He fired him because the man said he didn't want war in Syria. Listen to Mr. Bossert on ABC this week on clip 3.
I think the president's got a point that's been very clear, and I'm going to reiterate that point. The pendulum has swung in the wrong direction for too long, and the United States of America has been taken advantage of in their responsibility to provide security for the entire world. It is time to move that pendulum back in a way that brings regional partners and others with equities in these matters all around the globe into putting their resources and their treasure and their boys and girls on the line, and not just American troops. American troops aren't going to fix the 6 or 7 different ongoing conflicts and wars going on in the Middle East or in Syria. I think the president...
So because he said that American troops should not be alone in Syria, and they should, he agrees with the president, he said this the other day, he was fired by the Walrus, who is showing himself to be a very, very dangerous loose cannon, who now has the president's left ear. And he's sitting there smirking and smiling. He's finally come in from the cold. He was circling the buffet for a long period of time at Mar-a-Lago. He was in the outer ring, didn't get near the buffet. He was probably given some of the leftover ice cream and coffee after the staff had been given access to the buffet when all the guests had left for well over a year. And all of a sudden now he's sitting in the driver's seat. Very dangerous man. And I think he's going to get us into a foreign war, the exact opposite of what we elected Trump for. This is the Savage Nation. The phone number is 855-4 855-400-7282. Go to michaelsavage.com to get a free newsletter. I keep forgetting to tell you that. It's my words of wisdom. And you can get that 3 times a week for nothing just by signing up on michaelsavage.com. And no, we do not share the list with Mark Zuckerberg.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Why don't I just fire Mueller? Well, I think it's a disgrace what's going on. We'll see what happens. But I think it's really a sad situation when you look at what happened. And many people have said you should fire him. Again, they found nothing. And in finding nothing, that's a big statement. If you know the person who's in charge of the investigation, you know all about that, Deputy Rosenstein, Rod Rosenstein. He wrote the letter very critical of Comey. One of the things I said, I fired Comey. Well, I turned out to do the right thing, because you look at all of the things that he's done and the lies, and you look at what's gone on at the FBI with the insurance policy and all of the things that happened. Turned out I did the right thing. So we'll see what happens. I think it's disgraceful, and so does a lot of other people. This is a pure and simple witch hunt.
Period. End of story. Well, I have a question. I'm going to throw out a blockbuster suggestion. We know that Cohen paid hush money to the stripper, right? What if it turns out that Cohen says, I slept with the stripper and the hush money was for me? What would happen then? The case would go up in smoke. And it's not illegal to pay hush money, by the way. So anything could happen. I know you didn't hear this anyway yet. Well, I'm going to say it again because it probably was so like a lightning bolt that you said, wait a minute, what did he just say? What did Savage just say? The lawyer whose office was just busted in, Cohen, allegedly they're looking for this, that. He paid hush money to the stripper who we all know about. What if Cohen gets up and says, yes, I paid Daniels hush money because I slept with her and I didn't want her to tell my family. And I'm going to just admit it right now because it's enough already. And nothing to do with Trump. You didn't hear that anywhere, right? So what if that's the case? I didn't say it is. We're just speculating because that's what we do. There's something wrong with the whole picture. He's got to fire Sessions, Rosenstein, and Mueller in a Saturday night massacre. At the same time, launch missiles from a destroyer in a ship off the coast of Syria, which hits nothing but sand and blows up nothing but sand rats. And everyone will forget it except the fanatics in the media who'll forget nothing. If he cured Alzheimer's in his spare time, they would say that he should have cured it earlier. That's how sick they are at CNN. If Donald Trump, in his spare time, were a scientist and somehow discovered the magic bullet to cure Alzheimer's disease, Wolf Blitzer and Prancer and Dancer would say, how dare he have withheld this cure for Alzheimer's for so long? He must have known the cure before. He kept the cure because he didn't want too many people to be cured, because he's purely evil. On to you, Wolf. That's what you'll hear anyway. So what's the difference what they say? We all know what to expect from them, which is anything but the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But I want to open it up to what you think. Again, listen to what I just said, because I don't think you heard this anywhere yet. I haven't heard it anywhere, have you? Anyone speculate on this yet? What if Cohen gets up and says, well, I paid hush money to keep her quiet, I slept with her. Donald Trump didn't even know about it. Tell me what happens to Mueller's case then. Tell me, where does he go next? So he went from Russia, nothing. Now he went from hush money that was from him, turns out nothing. What's the next thing? That he bought lettuce from an illegal alien from Mar-a-Lago? That he didn't pay sufficient tariffs on lettuce from China? What can he do next? Where does this end? He bought a pair of shoes that were imported from Italy that come from an endangered species, from an alligator. Trump wears alligator shoes, and the alligator was personally killed by someone in his family. What's the next thing they're going to dig into? Don't you think it's time already to stop this stinking investigation and get it over with already, one way or the other? That's what I think. Smitty on KSFO line 4. Go ahead. You've been holding a long time. What's your point?
Yeah, Dr. Savage, I think that they have Trump and his lawyer dead in the sights because he didn't have the authority to authorize what he did without Trump having any knowledge of it.
Wait a minute, he didn't have authority. What if it was him? What if listen to what I just said? What if Cohen now says, what if what you say is true, that it was Trump, but what if Cohen now falls on the sword for Trump and says, I slept with her and it was hush money I was paying for me?
I think it's too late because I think they have the information that shows that him and Trump are conspiring to commit a crime together.
All right, so the collusion with Russia is over, though.
Oh, it's still going on. That's just
Wait, really? What evidence is there of collusion with Russia?
This is just one part of the investigation, not the whole thing.
Well, but what does this have to do with colluding with Russia to steal an election?
This is just part of the whole thing that falls into place when people are investigating. Things fall out.
So let me ask, is there something in your background, any skeleton in your closet that you would like not to be revealed?
Sure.
Sure, okay, that's what my attorney said in the last hour, that there's not a listener listening to the show who doesn't have something to hide.
Listen, I've been listening.
So how would you feel if you were pulled in for a parking ticket and some insane prosecutor who hated you started to investigate your background and found out you did X, Y, or Z? How would you feel about that?
I probably wouldn't like it.
So how can you support it being done to the president when he's just, at the end of the day, he's a citizen of the United States like you and I are?
Well, I'm going to put it to you like this, Dr. Savage. There's too many high-profile people involved with this case, and they wouldn't have kicked the door in if they didn't have some information. I think you know.
Well, you're assuming that. There are people who are pretty mean and desperate who would kick in many doors to maintain their power, and that absolute power corrupts absolutely. I don't agree with you that because they're so high profile. What you're saying is that because there's smoke, there must be fire. And what you're saying is that although there is probable cause, we don't know that there's probable cause. What is it?
There's probably cause because I think they have some information that shows that Trump knew about those payments, and they're both lying. So,
all right, so let's say Trump knew about those payments. But again, what if Cohen says, I made the payment, meaning I, Cohen, because I slept with...
Information.
Why would that be too late?
Because they have information that goes against what him and Trump both are stating. I think they got him caught in a lie.
Do you actually think that Trump is that stupid to have put something in writing, say, go pay her off?
I don't think he's that stupid to do it, but I think he had no choice. He wanted to become president.
No, wait a minute. But then you would say he'd be putting it in writing. I think Trump's much more clever than that. I don't think Trump is stupid enough to have put something in writing like go pay off the hooker.
Well, he probably would.
We'll have to wait and see, but I can say this. Even liberals understand that we have all just lost big time because of what Rosenstein, Sessions, and Mueller have just done.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Yesterday after the show, I tweeted President Trump. I was trying to reach him directly. Time to fire Mueller. He exceeded his fake Russia mandate. Do not fear fake news people. I mean, I was very clear. Fire Mueller, period. Take the heat because those who hate you are going to hate you anyway, and those who support you are going to support you anyway. That's my opinion. So now, whether he will do it or not, I don't know. Then we had the false flag event of the gas attack in Syria that occurred so conveniently a day before the warmonger, the walrus, appears on the scene, which was shocking to me. It was so orchestrated, it could have been a bad script for a bad TV show, that a day before a warhawk, chicken hawk warhawk, becomes national security advisor, implanted by the same people who got us into Iraq on false pretense of weapons of mass destruction. A day before, all of a sudden, there's a gas attack, allegedly by Assad in Russia. Why would they do that when they're winning the war and they almost have Syria completely in their hand? Why would they turn the whole world against them? And I hope Donald Trump sees through this and allows a proper investigation to proceed on who actually perpetrated the gas attack, because we don't know. It could have been their own side. They do that to their own people. They're like animals. They don't care about their own people. They've done it before. They'll do it again. But I want to go back to the bigger issue, which is domestic. Irrespective of whether Cohen paid off some low-life slut who may have slept with the president, that is not a crime, by the way. It's not a crime to pay anyone hush money. I don't know if you know that. There was no crime here. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to investigate Cohen's emails, everything they can find, emails, you name it, phone records, to try to get something else. That's a smokescreen, the Smokey Daniels. If they can find something else that implicates someone in Trump's family in some business dealing that may have been a little off the beam, or a tax thing that Cohen, I'm saying if now, anything he can get his hands on, what they will do is indict that family member and try to destroy the family member. And once they have that family member in the vice, if they get that far through Cohen's private correspondence, what they will do is they will present Trump with a very Machiavellian decision, rock in a hard place. Either step down with honor or we'll put your ex in jail, meaning the relative. That's what I think is going on here. That's what I can see. And it doesn't take a genius to see it, because this is the typical tactic of prosecutors in criminal cases, especially high-profile criminal cases such as what they used against the mafia in New York City. And many of these prosecutors under Mueller, especially in the Southern District, made their bones by busting organized crime in New York. Never forget that. They're using the same tactics that they used in organized crime trials and pretrials and pretrial maneuvering to go after President Trump. Now, in a bigger picture, if I were on another planet or another universe looking down, I would say how boring this country has become, how predictably sick it has become, that we first saw the indictment and impeachment of Bill Clinton based upon lying to Congress over sex with an intern. Remember that one? And the Democrats have been waiting now all these years to get even and to impeach a Republican. It's like tit for tat. That's all it is on a bigger scale. Now, even if they should impeach Trump, and they just might, it wouldn't mean anything, because they impeached Bill Clinton. He stayed in office. So it's a waste of our intellectual energy to even engage in this crap. The world is burning. Animals are being slaughtered who shouldn't be touched. The land is being poisoned. The air is being poisoned. The waters are being poisoned. Man's mind is being dragged into the slutty gutters of the universe because of bickering, partisan politics. It's all crazy. The whole thing is a game. It's shadows on the wall. There's Zuckerberg. They're making believe they're grilling him. It's a fake Stalinist hearing in reverse. Do you know that Facebook and associated groups with Facebook donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to the very senators who are grilling him? And he met with them privately yesterday. Do they think they're fooling me? You have any idea how much money he gave to Feinstein and the others there, making believe they're actually grilling him? The whole thing is a charade. Zuckerberg testifying before Congress shows how great Facebook is by saying, we helped support the Me Too movement. We help support the anti-gun march for our lives. We watch for hate speech, meaning we kill any conservative sites we don't like. We look out for fake news. We're interested in foreign interference. Russia, 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 Russia. So he's using this cleverly, the elf, to promote the left-wing Gestapo in the United States of America. He contributed to the committees that question him. It's beyond comprehension what a game this is. And I got to tell you, that Zuckerberg is one smart cookie. He's as tough as nails, smart, unflappable. And we see that there are two generations involved here in the Zuckerberg hearings. The very old and the very young. There are two Americas that we're looking at in the Zuckerberg trials. You've got men like Grassley who couldn't even say the word app. He said the word apt, A-P-T. I hear everything. He didn't know what an app was, but he used the word, you've developed an apt, where people can do this and can do that. He didn't know where he was. Then Grassley, the interrogator, says, we're going to limit ourselves to the 5-year rule here. Oh, I mean the 5-minute rule. Even the audience broke out in laughter. Then there was the Queen of Diamonds there, Dianne Feinstein, the Dragon Lady herself, making believe that she really cares what Zuckerberg may have done or not done when he's in her backyard. So those are the big issues. Now here's a little issue. I open up the local yokel newspaper, the SF Chronicle. Headline, SF man arrested in bizarre triple stabbing at Coliseum BART station. So naturally, I want to see the perp, and they never show him if he's a person of color. This one they show in living color because he's a white crazy man. And believe me, there are enough white crazy men out there. This one goes into a subway station, which we call BART out here, and starts stabbing people. I warned you never to look at a crazy person. Apparently, a couple, a man and a woman, sister and brother, 50 and 60, get on a train, and this maniac locks onto them, gets fixated on them. Now, I warned you years ago, having grown up in New York, I was taught this very young. If you're walking down an avenue, a street, now the nut can be across the street. Psychopaths have a way of zooming in on your mind. I don't know if you know that. Don't even look at them, because if you look at them across the street, they have paranormal sensitivities. Most homeless people are insane psychotics, and they have paranormal abilities to lock into you. If you look at them, you know what they think? They think that you actually like them or that you are going to hurt them. So apparently, he latched onto these people and started knifing them, a sister and a brother. They did nothing. Listen to this now. A man jumps in to save them. He also gets stabbed. But had the bystander, jump in to not save them, they would have been killed. The brother and sister, whose names have not been released, were taken by ambulance to a local hospital. San Francisco is in the middle of a crime wave not like any ever seen, but it's covered up by the media who want you to think Kamala Harris is doing a fabulous job. That the Willie Brown machine is doing just great. That Jerry Brown's socialist paradise is now perfect. But getting back to the big story, they raided the office of Trump's longtime personal lawyer, Michael D. Cohen. The FBI, the Gestapo, seized records related to several topics, including payments to the filthy, disgusting, degenerate porno film star. She's an actress, you hear? Actress, that's some actress. Today they call it an actress. A dirtbag psychopath, that's an actress now. But irrespective of what she is, federal prosecutors in Manhattan got the search warrant after getting a demand to do so from the special counsel, the rogue prosecutor Robert Mueller, according to Mr. Cohen's lawyer, who called the search completely inappropriate and unnecessary. Now, I know what Mueller is doing. He's trying to squeeze everyone around Trump till someone breaks and turn state's evidence on Trump. That's if there's any evidence to turn, but that's his game here. It's what they did in trials against mafioso, etc. But I'd like to know what gave Mueller the right to do this. What gives this rogue maniac, Mueller, the right to do a thing like this? Stephen Ryan, the lawyer for the lawyer. Now, the lawyer had to get a lawyer. Stephen Ryan is the lawyer for the lawyer of Donald Trump, says the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York executed a series of search warrants and seized the privileged communications between my client, Michael Cohen, and his clients. I have never heard anything like this. Is there anyone listening to this show who is, let us say, a lawyer and a Democrat and a liberal who thinks this is legitimate and good? Because I want you to understand something. What goes around comes around. If you don't speak out for this kind of illegitimate Gestapo-like tactic that Mueller is engaging in right now, it will come to haunt you downstream. It means your communications with your drug dealer friends can be seized by anyone at any time. I don't know how Mueller could do a thing like this. Moreover, where is that in his mandate to look into Russia collusion? How did he suddenly go from a Russia collusion investigation to money paid to a stripper? Explain that to me. The whole thing stinks from top to bottom. And while this is going on, the warmongers have gotten control of the government. And the walrus there, Bolton, the day he takes the job, all of a sudden, we're almost at war now with Russia and Iran. I warned you about him. One man's opinion is what I saw coming. I said keep this bum away. Keep the walrus away. He's a maniac. A chicken hawk, draft dodger wants war. Why? Why? He has friends in high places who make a lot of money off wars. That's why. My opinion. Have no way to prove it or disprove that. But it doesn't make sense to me. And watch out for young men getting killed in wars started by old, greedy, aggressive, desperate men. Watch out for young men who are slaughtered like cannon fodder by old men who want the glory of war. I'm not the first man to see that, nor will I be the last. Haven't enough men died in Syria, in Iraq, in Iran? Hasn't the earth drunk enough American blood? Hasn't enough American blood been spilled in that hellhole of the Middle East? And yet we put a man in? I didn't put him in. I try to keep him away. I was asked what I thought of the walrus a while back, and I said, keep the walrus away. The walrus is a danger to the stability of America and the world. That's all. Let's leave it at that. I won't say who, what, when. Be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather.
It is the Savage Nation as we drift into the waning moments of the program, and many of you get ready for normal things. Turn the radio off, turn televisions off. You go home to a family, have dinner. If I were on the Senate committee grilling Zuckerberg and it was a real hearing, the first question I would say is, Mr. Zuckerberg, I'm Senator Savage. The first question I'd like to ask you is, how come you're not testifying under oath? The second question, Mr. Zuckerberg, is that we're reading that body parts from threatened wildlife is widely sold on your platform, Facebook. That you are permitting advertisements for well-known groups that are selling body parts of threatened animals, including elephant ivory, rhino horn, and tiger teeth. And before you answer, Mr. Zuckerberg, we can bring in another cushion for you if the first one doesn't lift you up high enough to make you look dominant enough. But we found a secret complaint filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission from wildlife preservation advocates who alleged that Facebook's failure to stop illicit traders using its service for illegal activity is actually violating the social network's responsibilities as a publicly traded company. And hold off, Mr. Zuckerberg. I am not Dianne Feinstein, so I'll continue on my questioning. There is a complaint that was provided to the Associated Press that was initially filed in August on behalf of an undercover informant representing the National Whistleblower Center, a nonprofit legal advocacy group, and the informant who recorded video of face-to-face meetings with wildlife traffickers set up over Facebook has been kept confidential out of safety concerns, Mr. Zuckerberg. Hold on. Don't open up yet. Just be quiet. We'll get you another cushion. You want another water? You need a water, Sprite, something to keep you hydrated? The SEC declined to comment on Monday on whether the whistleblower complaint triggered an investigation of Facebook. So, Mr. Zuckerberg, you claim that you're out for the good of the world and the good of the public, and you want to bring everyone together, even though you're not under oath. Can you tell us, not under oath, why you are displaying advertisements for well-known American corporations operated by overseas wildlife trackers illegally selling the body parts of elephant ivory, rhino horn, and tiger teeth? Mr. Zuckerberg, please, I'll take your answer right now, not under oath. You're not hearing that. Do you know why? Because I haven't been paid off by Zuckerberg, and I'm not a senator. I am in a much more important position. I'm a talk show host who gets to ask the questions that you need asked, not by a senator who's not asking the right questions. We've also asked today, what if Cohen says I slept with the hooker and I paid her off? What are you going to do then? The whole case goes up in smoke. What if he falls on the sword for Trump? What are you going to do then? Come up with something else? That Trump was wearing alligator shoes they found in an email from an endangered species? Where are they going to go with this? When does it end? We all need a rest from it. Now, this thing on the body parts of threatened wildlife you can find on my website, michaelsavage.com. It's a very important story that you blast Facebook with, and you make the smiling elf answer to. He's getting away with virtual murder right now, sitting up there on the cushion. He has responsibility to the wildlife in the world that's being slaughtered and being sold, the body parts sold on his platform. Again, no one's asking him this question. But I am, because it's an important question. Zuckerberg sitting on a high chair was posted earlier on the Drudge Report, and we linked it up for you on so many different platforms for you to see. I mean, okay, you can laugh at it if you want. What does he need a high chair for? What do you need the extra cushion? To conclude the show today, we've come to the conclusion that this witch hunt has to come to an end. That Trump has to fire Sessions, who's behind it, Rosenstein, and Mueller. At the same time, he has to launch some missiles from a destroyer off the coast of Syria and strike sand rats in the desert of Syria, so make sure he doesn't kill any Russians or any Syrians and trigger World War III. That's what I say. The phone number here is 855-407-282. If you care to visit me online, it's at michaelsavage.com. The important story today is that Stalin's head of the secret police, Beria, was known to have said, as he tortured people to death, "Show me the man and I will show you the crime." Have we entered that dark stage of American political history? I hope the answer is, well, you answer it. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime. If they can raid your lawyer's office and steal his emails, they can find everything that you are hiding now. Show me the man and I will show you the crime.
Savage.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.